I'm Brandi Kruse, and this is Politics Unpacked. Politics Unpacked is brought to you by our friends at Future 42, making Washington a place where all can prosper. Sign up for their newsletter at future42.org. And down the stretch they come. Let's unpack week 7 of the legislative session in Olympia. Later today, supporters of 6 Let's Go Washington initiatives will rally on the steps of the state capitol, hoping to keep up pressure on state lawmakers to give hearings to all of them. So far, lawmakers have only committed to giving 3 of those initiatives hearings next week. Those will be Initiative 2111, no state income tax, Initiative 2113, restoring reasonable police pursuits, and Initiative 2081, which has to do with parental rights. Democrats have said not to expect hearings for the other 3 initiatives: Initiative 2117 to repeal the Climate Commitment Act, Initiative 2109, which would repeal the capital gains tax, and Initiative 2124, which would allow Washingtonians to opt out of the state-run long-term care program. Also this week, a bill died that would have given the state more power to force local jurisdictions to accept supportive and transitional housing projects. The bill was supported by Governor Jay Inslee, who said that some cities simply weren't stepping up to the plate.
Most recently in Kenmore, we had a site for over 100 housing units ready, set to go, been well worked, financing in place, consistent with local zoning, but local leaders showed more fecklessness than leadership and killed the project.
One of the leaders the governor was referring to was Kenmore's Deputy Mayor Melanie O'Kane, who said their decision to cancel a housing project there came after robust community feedback.
If you really look at this project and what a bad fit it was for this moment in time in Kenmore, it's not a never. We are going to show, and this is what I wanted to say to Governor Inslee, we're going to prove you wrong. Our community is going to come together with the solutions that make sense.
While there are still quite a few bills left in the mix this legislative session that could become law, let's focus on some of the more controversial ones that remain. HB 1589 would ban Puget Sound Energy from connecting new natural gas lines to new residential or commercial buildings, and could also allow them to stop serving existing customers. The bill passed in the House with support from the Democratic majority. HB 1893 would give unemployment benefits to striking workers. It has passed in the House and managed to make it out of the Senate Labor and Commerce Committee, where it had a hearing this week. A widely debated education bill passed out of the Senate Committee on Early Learning and K-12 Education this week, HB 2331, would give the state power to ensure local school districts are including inclusive material in their lessons, giving ultimate authority on that issue to the superintendent of public instruction. The law would mandate that schools include lessons that are inclusive of the LGBTQ community, different races and genders, and the neurodiverse community. An amendment put forth by Republican State Senator Jim McCune, which would have ensured that that material does not include sexually explicit content, was shot down by the Democratic chair of the committee.
School boards, employees shouldn't be able to bring these kind of books in the school.
We need to move forward. I'm asking for a no on this this amendment. And so let's say all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. The amendment has failed.
On the budget side of things this week, Democrats are proposing $200 rebates to some energy customers to help make up for increases due to the Climate Commitment Act. Some Republicans have called the proposal bribery, given that voters will decide in November whether to repeal the CCA. It also appears that Democrats are trying to quell concerns around the state's long-term care program, which voters could decide in November to make optional. That would likely make the program insolvent. Instead, Democrats are proposing a bill that would fix one of the primary concerns with the program, allowing Washingtonians to still access the long-term care benefit if they leave the state for a new job or to retire. For more on what happened in Olympia this week and what's ahead next week, let's check in with our friends at the Center Square. Brett Davis, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again.
Week 7, we're getting down there.
Can't believe you haven't kicked me off yet.
No, of course not. Well, at this point, it's too late in the session to kick you off.
Right?
Yeah, who's going to do it?
Might as well finish the job.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about the big hearings happening next week. But first, we discussed this week on Undivided this effort from Democrats to give energy rebates to Washingtonians. But the amount depends on whether voters decide to repeal the CCA.
Right. There's actually, two versions of supplemental budget, and they both contain, $150 million for energy rebates. But there's a couple of differences between the bills. Actually, they both have one-time vouchers of $200 for low-income people. The Senate version, they want all the payments to come out in 2024. I found the House version was the more interesting one because they they put half of the rebates would come out on October 15th, right before the election, and then the rest of it would come out in February 15th of 2025, unless Initiative 2117 passes, which would get rid of the carbon tax, and then you wouldn't get the money. So Drew Stokesbury, in the Republican press conference, he called this suspicious because basically what's happening is, money's getting spent right before and right after the election, and in the latter case, it's contingent upon how people vote on the initiative. I mean, or how they vote. If they vote against it,
And it's interesting,
it
we had
won't
on
show up.
Todd Myers with the Washington Policy Center came on this week, and he said that it doesn't make sense to cancel the payments if the CCA is repealed because you already have the money.
Right.
So you could still continue to give it back to folks.
Republicans had mentioned this is basically a de facto admission that this is hurting people, which you have been saying it doesn't. But
Let's end with this. A bill that would allow only even-numbered election years has cleared a committee. So this would be statewide. You can't have any of these weird off-year elections.
right, just be even years. I guess on the assumption that even year elections, more people turn out for those as opposed to odd year elections. Of course, the critics of this say that's going to put a lot of stuff on a single ballot in an even election year. It's going to crowd the ballot. So I'm not sure how that would work in practical terms, but in theory, it sounds good to some people.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is an idea Democrats love and an idea Republicans do not love. It seems like Democrats believe that if there's more voter turnout, that's better for them than if there's less.
Right. I suppose I can see their logic, especially in Washington State.
Yeah. So we're getting pretty close to the end of the session coming up. It seems like if bills aren't moving anywhere by this point, they're probably not going to this session.
Right. The sand in the hourglass is running out, so to speak.
Yeah. Time's ticking. All right. Brett Davis, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Brandi Kruse, and that has been Politics Unpacked for this 7th week of the legislative session. Have a great weekend. Politics Unpacked is brought to you by our friends at Future 42, making Washington a place where all can prosper. Sign up for their newsletter at future42.org. To support Undivided and our content like this, you can subscribe for just $5 a month by signing up at undividedpod.com.